Hey guys, how are you? Happy Friday. If you're watching this live, means you're watching from Facebook. This is a Facebook live video if you're watching from YouTube. So I arrived to yoga a few minutes early and I just wanted to come on and make this quick video while I'm waiting for you. So excuse the car but I wanted to share with you. So someone asked me this question today and it was a fantastic question. They said, "Okay, Jess, well, autism is a spectrum, right? Which means every child's different." And in fact, one of my favorite quotes is, "If you have met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism." Everyone is so uniquely different, both whether they're neurotypical or whether or not they have autism. Personalities are different. As far as intelligence, that can be different. The ability to learn is different. Strengths are different. Weaknesses are different. The same way a ballerina is different from a football player, even though they both wear tights, right? That's how it is for everyone, not just children with autism, but everybody. So, is there something that all children with autism have in common? And yes, the answer to that is yes. There are three things, and they're only three things that all children with autism have in common. Those are the three characteristics of autism that are part of the diagnosis. So here's number one. The first thing that all children have in common, these are the, again, three primary characteristics of autism. Number one is there's a lack of communication at an early age. Now, a lot of times that people do learn to communicate who have autism. So as a child gets older, they may gain communication skills and then they may not struggle their entire life with communication. But at an early age, they're not communicating if a child has autism. So that doesn't only mean they're not talking. So communication goes far beyond talking. So we can communicate with someone with just a look. And you know that, right? You know that you can give your child that look and they know they're not supposed to be doing what they're doing. Or the smile, right? That can be a form of communication. Pointing is a form of communication. So children with autism at an early age, they don't develop communication as effectively. They have a lack of communication. Joint attention is a big one, which is shared enjoyment. That's something like pointing out an airplane as they're walking by, or if the child receives something like they're having their favorite snack and they're happy, looking at you and smiling. Those are all forms of communication that children with autism often initially lack. So the second thing that all children have in common is a lack of social skills. Now, again, as people develop, a lot of this does improve. So early on, what did lack of social skills look like? That can look at like not showing an interest in other children, maybe being more interested in objects or toys than people. So if a child with autism, goes into a classroom and they see a toy train they really, really like, they may not show any interest in any other kids. They may not be interacting with the kids. They might play next to them, but they're not necessarily looking at them. They're not responding to them. They're not looking at them. They're not talking to them. And, as that gets older, sometimes, that can change. The social skills can change. I'm looking at really what are the primary needs when kids are much younger. So number three, that is stereotypy. That's a big, big fancy word. That is commonly called stimming or sensory behaviors, but that's really restricted interest. So children who are only interested in one thing. Now, all kids have preferences, and it's really typical for kids to go through phases where everything's about Daniel the Tiger, everything's about Thomas the Train, everything is about Dora, right? But children with autism, they really, really perseverate. They have a really hard time coping, and they're only interested in one thing. For example, numbers. A child who's only interested in numbers, and they might be walking down the street and might see a sign that has a 2 on it. They're pointing it out. So there's this really preoccupation with things. Another thing that looks like, something like hand flapping or some sort of visual or motor stereotypy, repetitive body movements, or when a child's making sounds over and over, and that sound don't make sense and they're not in context of anything. It's all forms of stereotypy. Another thing is if a child is touching someone inappropriately and they're doing it over and over, and I don't mean by inappropriate, I don't mean in an explicit way, but for example, if a child is rubbing their nose against you, or a child's fascinated with your ears, and to a degree which is inappropriate. Again, a lot of these characteristics are things that all children do. It's really the amount that kids are doing it that makes it inappropriate. Another way that those behaviors can look like, is if children are preoccupied with parts of an object rather than the object, or they don't know how to play with an object. So if you give them a car, they're fascinated by spinning the wheels rather than playing with the car. So those are all examples of stereotypy. So no, what should you do if you're watching this video and you're saying, oh my goodness, that sounds like my toddler, they're doing these things. If your child's under 3, you have to, if you're in the United States, your child is eligible to be determined, well, they're eligible for screening for early intervention. Early intervention is the first step. Speak to your pediatrician. You can ask their input, although pediatricians honestly don't always know, and they see a child so briefly for 2 or 3 minutes. So if you think there's something wrong, even if your pediatrician says no, make sure you're calling early intervention. You're getting a full assessment, someone to really assess your child's skills. These are all warning signs. Sometimes these things just disappear and they go away as children get older. Sometimes they really just need the help and support. And, sometimes you will wind up getting a diagnosis if you have these things going on, but all these things are really important to look out for. Okay, so I really, really hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, if you're watching this on Facebook, I want you to go to parenttrainingvideos.com. That's my YouTube channel. I put out a ton of content that's really designed to help your family. Now, I want you to also do one more thing. I want you to go to my website, Hope Education Services, because I put out a lot of free content that only people who are on my email list get. There's a lot of webinars, private invitations. Sometimes I have a free afternoon, and I'll just say, okay, email my list and say, hey, I have 2 hours free, and the first person who jumps on, I'm going to do consultation for you if you're the first person who replies to this email. So make sure you get onto my email list. I put out weekly blog posts. I'll email them to you. Every week you'll get an email. It'll have whatever blog post I wrote for the week. I'm also doing some amazing interviews lined up. I'm going to be interviewing some autism professionals in different areas about topics that you guys have asked me about. Parents have asked me, hey, how do I help kids with going to the dentist? How do I help them with blood draws? I have dentists coming on. I have nurses coming on. I also have people who have autism coming on, who are adults, who can articulate for you how they're feeling, what things mean to them. And also they're going to be giving some feedback to me and to some other autism professionals on what we're getting right, what we're getting wrong, and how we can improve. So I do believe I'm the first ABA therapist to ever actually incorporate the feedback of autistic adults into my profession. So please, please, please stay tuned for those videos. I'm really excited about them. I just got my schedule lined up today. So there's going to be some amazing, amazing things coming out. So please make sure you do both of those things. Go to parenttrainingvideos.com, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and go to hopeeducationservices.com and get on my list. Take care, everyone. My yoga is ready to start, so I'm going to go over there.